Hey you guys, welcome back to Black Tea. It's your girl Ebony. Okay you guys, we do have an update on the Jennifer Hough v. Petty case. Let's just say Nicki Minaj is now referred to as the former defendant, and it does seem that Jennifer Hough's team is no longer looking for damages for the current claims, but instead seeking restitution for what happened back in 1994. Now, Jennifer Hough's team did release the 1994 sentencing transcript. What is that? Well, this is actually Mr. Petty back in 1994, a 16-year-old being sentenced for the crime against Miss Hough. Now, during this transcript, it's going to be very hard for you guys to listen to because Mr. Petty had a hard time even back then admitting that he was wrong, and it actually had the judge stop the court proceeding several times to say he wasn't even comfortable. Now, I also want to address in this video the fact that a letter was presented to the court. Not only was the recant letter presented, but it actually allowed Mr. Petty at some point in time to retract his plea because Jennifer had refuted all of her claims that she originally said in the beginning. So this is going to be a very jam-packed video. Go ahead and get your snacks and let's get straight to it. Now, as you guys see on the screen, there are different people who will be in this transcript. So that you guys understand completely, I want to make sure you understand the players. The clerk is in this transcript. You also have the court, which would be considered the judge. You have a person called Michelson, who is Kenneth Petty's lawyer, and you also have the DA, who will be described as SNOA or either Frank. So I want to make sure you guys understand who is talking as I'm going through the transcript. Case number 6 on the calendar, indictment 4521 of 94, Kenneth Petty. Judge, my client has an application. The people have indicated that they're willing to allow the defendant to reinstate the plea that was taken earlier on this case, and I have spoken to my client and he wishes to do so with the court's permission. Well, we'll have to go through the allocution and obtain the facts. What's your name, please? Kenny Petty. Do you understand English? Yes. Is that your lawyer, Miss Michelson, standing next to you? Yes. Did you hear and understand the application and guilty plea she made to the court a few moments ago on your behalf, which was that she wishes to? She said that you wish to reinstate your guilty plea that you had entered into this case on November 10th of 1994, in which you pled to attempted R-word in the degree under the first count. Is that what you wish to plead? Yes. Have you had a full and complete opportunity to discuss your plea in this case with your lawyer? And at the end of that discussion, did you ask her to make this application for you? Yes. Do you wish to withdraw your prior plea of not guilty to the charge of attempted in the first count? Yes, sir. Are you pleading guilty because you are in fact guilty? No. You cannot take the plea if you're not guilty. Yes. What's your answer? Yes. Has anybody threatened or forced you to plead? No. Are you pleading voluntarily? Yes. Do you understand that you have a constitutional right to a speedy trial before a jury on these charges, and that the people have the burden of proving these charges beyond a reasonable doubt to a unanimous jury, and the court is prepared to begin that trial shortly if you so desire? Do you understand that? Yes. Do you further understand that if you were to proceed to trial, you would have the right to confront the witnesses against you, and furthermore, your lawyer would have the full opportunity to cross-examine these witnesses, and you would also have a right to present witnesses on your own behalf? Do you understand that? Yes. Have you had the opportunity to discuss with your lawyer any defenses you may have had to the charges brought against you? Yes. Do you realize by pleading guilty to, 1 second, you did not discuss the defenses? Like what? About the trial and how it would go? I guess I misheard you on that. He said no, but now he's changing his answer to yes. I'm going to ask you that question again. Have you had the opportunity to discuss with your lawyer cover any defenses you may have to the charges brought against you. Yes. Do you realize by pleading guilty, this plea could serve as a basis for increased sentencing in the future should you commit anything else? Do you understand that? Yes. Also, if you were to proceed to trial, you would not be compelled to testify in any way, although you would have the right to take the stand on your own behalf at the time of trial if you wish to do so. Do you understand that? Yes. Do you wish to waive all these rights and plead guilty to attempted in the first? Yes. Do you understand that if your guilty plea is accepted by the court, it is the same as if you had a trial and were found guilty? Yes. Did your lawyer tell you there was a discussion amongst attorneys in the court concerning the possible disposition and sentence in this case? Yes. Has anyone made any promises other than what I have told you? No. Do you still wish to plead guilty? Yes. By pleading guilty, you are admitting that on or about September 16, 1994, in the county of Queens, being male, you attempted to engage with Jennifer Hough, a female, by means of compulsion. Is that correct? Yes. Where did this take place? Elm Street. Is that in the county of Queens? Yes. And what is located at that address? My grandmother's house. Your grandmother's house? Yes. And were you there at the time with Jennifer? Yes. And did you attempt to engage in with her by force at that time? No. I mean, yes. Counsel, would you step up, please? Now, during this time, they have a sidebar because Kenneth Petty keeps denying that he is guilty of this crime. All right, Judge. As I indicated, the counsel, I wish to go over this again because I wasn't satisfied with taking a plea of guilty to the crime, and I am going to give the defendant an opportunity to respond again to my questions. The court can ascertain whether the defendant is pleading guilty or not. What is your name, please? Kenneth Petty. Do you understand English? Yes. Is that your lawyer, Miss Michelson, standing next to you? Yes. Do you hear and understand the application and the guilty plea she made to the court a few moments ago on your behalf? Yes. Have you had a full and complete opportunity to discuss your plea in this case with your lawyer? Yes. And at the end of that discussion, did you ask her to make this application for you? Yes. Do you wish now to withdraw your prior plea of not guilty? Yes. Are you pleading guilty because you are in fact guilty? Yes. Has anyone forced you to plead guilty? No. Are you pleading voluntarily? Yes. Has anyone made any promises other than what I have told you? Yes. I mean, no. Just so the record is clear, has anybody made any promises other than what I've told you? No. Do you still wish to plead guilty? Yes. By pleading guilty, you are admitting that on September 16th, being male, you attempted to engage with Jennifer Hough. Yes. Now, where did this take place? Elm Street. What's located at that address? My grandmother's house. And you were there with my grandmother and Jennifer. Were you in a room alone with her? Yes. What did you attempt to do on that occasion? I attempted to R her. And how did you attempt to do that? By doing it with her. Okay, well, you just told me you attempted to have something with her by means of blank. And could you tell me what part of that is attempted force? I grabbed her and threw her on the bed and tried to R her. How tall are you? 6'1". How tall was she at the time? I don't know. Well, are you bigger than she is? Yes. Heavier than she is? No. About the same weight? Yes. You say you grabbed her with your hands or your arms? Yes. Again, what part of your body did you grab her with? With my hands. You grabbed her with your arms? Yes. You threw her down? Yes. And you got on top of her? Yes. All right. Do you remember when you were being interviewed by the DA the day they took you? Yes. You signed a form allowing the P word to go into your house? Yes. On that form, it said they were allowed to look for a sharp object? Yes. Did you hold that object when you had her in the bedroom with you? Yes. Did you use it when you threw her down in the bed? Yes. All in the room? Yes. Is there a waiver? Your Honor, I have filled out a waiver and I'm handing it over to the defense counsel. Judge, I'm handing up the waiver of appeal signed by myself and the defendant. Okay, all right. Mr. Petty, do you understand that in every case, the defendant has a right to appeal? Yes. In this case, you're waiving your right to appeal? Yes. Have you discussed this with your attorney? Yes. Has anybody threatened or forced you to waive your right? No. Do you do so voluntarily? Yes. Do you understand? By waiving your right to appeal, you waive the right to appeal from the judgment of conviction. It's including but not limited to any decision by the court or any motion, and also waives your right to appeal from the sentence in this case. Do you understand that? Yes. Is this what you want to do? Yes. Do you understand by waiving your right to appeal, you waive the right to have somebody to represent you in the appellate court in the event you cannot afford an attorney. For that purpose, and that purpose would have submitted a brief before the appellate court or any of the issues related to your conviction and sentence. By waiving your right to appeal, you waive the right for that to happen. Do you understand that? Yes. Alright, you guys, so that is pretty much the end of the transcript, and the rest of the transcript talks about sentencing guidelines and the amount of time. But some of the things that stuck out to me about this transcript was first that Petty had a hard time admitting that he was guilty. The judge even had to do a sidebar to speak with counsel because he did not feel satisfied that Kenneth Petty understood what he was pleading to. On top of that, the judge even brought up the fact that the grandmother was in the home. So Jennifer has described in her interviews, also when speaking to the Daily Beast and on The Real, that she was viciously attacked by Mr. Petty. If she was viciously attacked, you mean to tell me that the grandmother didn't hear anything? Jennifer also said in her interview with The Real that Kenneth Petty had lit a cigarette, and in order for her to get away, she had to pick up a bleach bottle and throw it at him. So you mean to tell me you're out here trying to start a fire, he's smoking a cigarette, you're throwing stuff in the house, the grandmother is present, and nobody heard what was going on? There is a huge gray area there. On top of that, in 1994, they actually point out the fact that the pointed object came out in the room. In Jennifer's statement with The Real, she actually said that she was pointed at the bus stop to walk to Mr. Petty's home with the pointed object in her back. But the 1994 crime documents are saying that all of this situation with the pointed object happened all in the room. I repeat, verbatim, all in the room. This would leave a gray area as to how she got to his grandmother's place. Obviously, he didn't force her up there. However, allegedly, in my opinion, when they got into the room, this is when the pointed object actually came out based on court documents. On top of that, in her declaration, Jennifer also accuses Nicki Minaj of lying about a recant letter that was presented in 1994. This is what Jennifer's team is saying. Minaj lied and stated that Miss Hough wrote a letter recanting her story. Now, this is what Jennifer said to the Daily Beast. Jennifer insists she never wrote a letter recanting any part of her account. However, in the 1994 transcript, this is actually not true. There was a letter presented of Jennifer recanting her story, allegedly, and the judge actually allowed Mr. Petty to withdraw his plea because of the letter being presented to the court. Now, here's the transcript where the letter does come up in the court documents. This is page 2, number 6, indictment 4521 of 94. Defendant is present. Frank Degatano for the people. Yes. Jennifer Michelson for the defendant. Judge, at this time, we ask that the defendant withdraw his plea of guilty and have the court vacate that plea. On what basis? On the basis that there is no evidence that come forward in a letter from the complaining witness indicating she was not in fact R-worded, especially not R-worded in a manner in which she claimed earlier, that this would not constitute R1 and that he wishes to vacate that plea. As I look at the letter, while it doesn't refute the actual crime that's alleged as the top count to which the defendant pled guilty as an attempt, the circumstances regarding the force allegation is not particularly clear from that letter. So under those circumstances, I'll permit the defendant to withdraw the plea and set the matter down for a hearing. Mr. Degatano says, for what it's worth, the people oppose the court's efforts. I will move the defendant's allocation was comprehensive and complete, and I believe that the letter is not as important. So as you see, Jennifer has completely, in my opinion, lied about this letter. There was a letter that was presented to the court of her recanting her story. This is why charges that he was originally charged with were dropped, and they could only get him on attempted because she said that it did not happen. happened. She changed the version of events. It kind of sounds like what she does now, in my opinion. She does a lot of changing of the events. In one interview, she's talking about he pulled down her pants. In the next interview, she's talking about she's starting fires. In the next interview, she's throwing bleach bottles. In the next interview, it's just too many different inconsistencies. And now we know for sure that she did recant back in 1994, allegedly, in my opinion, based on this transcript. Also, how do you feel knowing now that Kenneth Petty was told in court that he could not appeal his conviction? Wouldn't that make a recant letter now for the failure to register irrelevant, because she had already wrote it in 1994 and he is not allowed to appeal this conviction? On top of that, how do you guys feel about Jennifer now seeking restitution instead of the current harassment claims? Do you think that this has always been about money from the beginning? So let me know what you guys think about this topic down below. Subscribe to the channel, give this video a big thumbs up, and you guys know we'll chop it up very soon. Bye guys.